All right, there we go. Let's get our Facebook groups in here. We're running it. There we go. Got our wheels spinning. All righty. There we go. All right. Welcome in. Welcome in. It is Tuesday evening, and it's time for an episode of Building the Broncos. I am Nick Kendell and joined by Carl Dumler. Carl, how are you doing? What's good? What's new? Another Victory Tuesday. Man, it's been a bit since the vibes have been this high in Broncos country. The only other time I can really think the hype being this high was before Russell Wilson actually played a regular season snap. But other than that, since we've been together, it's been a lot of, we'll see, maybe, but feels really good right now.
Yeah, maybe after they drafted Paxton Lynch, just because it's a first-round quarterback, there was a little bit of excitement there. But obviously, when you start seeing the team win games like this, I mean, this is a total domination, all sides of the ball. 27-2, you give up a stupid safety, unfortunately, because of some offensive line play. I'm sure we'll get into a little bit of that discussion at some point tonight. But no, to see that kind of victory after hearing the practice on Friday go so well, after hearing training camp, pretty much most of the national media people that have been there have been surprised at how the Broncos have looked and kind of hyped them up and even kind of changed some of their tune about the Broncos. So that's really good to hear that they're surprising people at this point.
Yeah, and who's not surprising me is David Mickelrath coming in here saying, "Good evening, Broncos country, Nick, Carl, and Deacon Scott. Watch this later on. 12-5, Bo QB1, Buckham 3 times, MHH for life, Denver for life, and Knicks for 6. I'm not on that 12-5 train yet, David, but I think the 5 and gosh, I'm always so scared to be like, now that we're in it, I like all the emotions, right? The feelings rather than the analytical stuff. ESPN just did a power ranking. Denver ranked the second worst team, according to ESPN, via their 70 combined writers or whatever. But I don't know. Right now, that 5.5 seems like it's going to go over for Denver. But I'm talking off the ledge. Am I too optimistic here? Typically, I'm the hold your horses, folks. And granted, that's not a high bar. But I'm not the 12-5 like David's saying. But I mean, above 500, smashing the over 5. I'm 5.5. I'm there.
I've thought about going and making that bet. Because, like I said, some of these young players showing up in big ways. This rookie class has looked really good. You might actually have a quarterback that can run the system, which, when you get a coach like this, if you can run their system, kind of like Kyle Shanahan or Andy Reid, those kind of guys, all you need is a quarterback that can run it. Now, to take it to that next level, you need a quarterback that can go beyond the system, that can do some things when the play breaks down or tight coverage, those kind of things. But yeah, just the very basics. I think that we've got that kind of guy. So there's definitely a lot of optimism, definitely thinking they're going to hit the over 5.5 at this point. So thank you there, David. Appreciate the money. And we got Michael coming in saying, good evening, Nick and Carl. I'm building the Broncos. Go Broncos. Michael, thank you for the stars. Always good to see you in here and rocking that number 10 Bo Nix jersey. I was talking to my kids the other day and said, hey, I'm going to let you guys all pick out one new Bronco thing for this year. And so my son, I was looking through the jerseys. He wants the blue Bo Nix jersey because he loves number 10. He was a big Jerry Jeudy guy. Yep, right there. The one that Michael's got. And he goes, Dad, you need to get a matching one. So I don't usually do that. I'm usually they have to be a veteran that's been on the team, gotten that second contract at the very least, or they are that Hall of Fame level, John Elway, Terrell Davis, Champ Bailey, Shannon Sharp, those kind of guys that are just legacies that are going to be Ring of Fame, known for the rest of the history of the Denver Broncos. So I've never gone a rookie. I almost did a Paxton Lynch one time just because I wanted to, I was so caught up in my own thoughts, that I had to prove Nick wrong, that I was right about this guy. He's wrong. I'm going to get a Paxton Lynch jersey. That's going to prove that he's going to be the guy. Really glad I did not make that choice. And but Michael, appreciate that. Good to see the jersey.
You know what? I'm not going to tease you too much about that because I was skeptical of Bo Nix at 12, and right now it looks like it was a good get. I maybe underrated the Sean Payton factor there, the influence, right? Different guys running different systems, and he looks to be a damn good fit with what Sean Payton wants to do. And again, the intangibles, the intelligence, the work ethic. He sounds like a pro. And after 61 starts, in college, right? That's pretty close to being a pro. Eric
Yeah.
Flynn comes in with the support. Thank you so much, Eric. We appreciate you for coming in and dropping the stars over on Facebook. Really supporting the show, keeping the lights on, making sure that we can keep bringing you this Broncos content Tuesday evenings, 6 o'clock Mountain Time. Phil McLaughlin coming in here saying, good evening, Nick, Carl, and Deacon Scott. Great to see PFF ranking Bo Nix and Jonah Ellis best rookies at their positions this week. Hopefully only the beginning. Yeah, it is hopefully only the beginning. I mean, right now, Jonah Ellis has been playing more like an early second round pick, I would say. I mean, I'll need to see a lot more from him to think he can be like, a perennial all pro kind of guy. But he looks to be hitting what looks like he's going to hit above that draft slot. I mean, having covered the Falcons with Scott a few years now, I mean, just because you use a day 2 pick on edge doesn't mean they're going to end up being a good player at edge. Unfortunately for the Falcons, that's not been the case. Now, granted, 2 preseason games, backup offensive lines. I mean, we know a thing or two about how terrible backup offensive lines are just across the league. So we'll see there once it's actual 6'7", 350-pound dancing bears out there with a 34-inch plus wing arm length. But good return so far, and yeah, good to see PFF grade those. Things will start ratcheting up here. We'll get a little bit of a downturn here, obviously, after that week 2 game, week 3. I'd be surprised if we see any of the starters play. But then right around the corner, 2 weeks from now, we'll have that first game with the Broncos in Seattle, and I will be there live. So hopefully it'll be much better the last time I was at a Denver game in Seattle, which was unfortunate. But thank you so much, Phil, for the stars. We appreciate you coming in. Also, if you guys think I sound weird today, I am getting the joys of having a child at daycare where viruses are just running through here. So my throat's a little sore this morning. Not the sick bug. I already had that, but from daycare, but or maybe from Vegas, Carl. But
it's hard to tell.
Yeah, God. Speaking of Vegas, we got David Youngkin, whatever that means. I'm always betting on David. Good to see you. Mike S in the house. Good to see you. Kirsten comes in and says, "Let's bow Broncos country."
Ooh,
yeah, that's I'm for it. Let's do it. Zach Power says, "Afternoon, fellas. Glad to see Nick's playing well, but a reminder that preseason hype can always bite. Many terrible quarterbacks play well in preseason, but glad to see competency. It just doesn't look it's too much for him, right? Like we don't know how big the ceiling is. I mean, there was a game where maybe it was Paxton Lynch with the Seahawks where he just went off for crazy stats. And, there's some plays here or there, ball placement, et cetera, that it's maybe we can nitpick that a little bit. Maybe he's a little bit late to that throw to Javonte Williams. Shouldn't have been a penalty getting it out there sooner. But still a rookie learning a very complicated, demanding Sean Payton offense. I think, the people talking about, let's start playing in the Super Bowl parades. God bless you. I wish I could have that mindset. But I think in the very least, we're going to have a competent starting NFL quarterback on a rookie contract. And that's a big benefit.
Yeah. I think you also, you hear the players talk about him. I was listening to the Chase Daniels interview. He got to go sit in on the quarterback room this past week. He was there at the Green Bay practice. He's one of those that worked with Sean Payton for a lot of years as a player. So knows his system. They were talking about how Chase Daniels was on the sideline and he'd see a formation and he'd call out the play. He knew exactly what was going to happen. He'd go, okay, the ball's supposed to go here because the defense is playing this way. So, very few, Drew Brees would know the system better. Maybe Chase Daniels is that next guy that knows this system better than anybody.
Taysom's been there for a bit. Taysom was with him for a while, right? I mean,
yeah, but I would guess he got a little bit of a different playbook than some of the other quarterbacks with the kind of plays that he'd be in. I mean, he'd know the whole system, but still, the way that he would talk about it, of just the players and how they responded to Bo Nix, the excitement from the coaches, and just listening to this guy where he was one of the coaches would call out, "Hey, Bo, we're in this formation. We're doing this. Where are you supposed to go with the ball? Defense is in this formation." And he, boom, know it right off the bat. This is where I'm supposed to go. And for a rookie to not have his head swimming completely at this point is pretty impressive. So I think he can hit the ground running. It sounds like they've really done well of building this system to his skill set, running some RPOs that he ran in college, running plays that he's comfortable with. I think you and I've talked about it a ton of times. One of my biggest frustrations is when you go and get a first round quarterback and then you say, hey, I know this is what you were really good at in college, but now we're going to ask you to do a completely different thing and all of a sudden be really good at it. Mm-hmm. And it just, or they don't go get the players to actually try to take advantage of what this player can do. Zach Wilson, what happened with the Jets for him? I'm not saying he would have been a great player by any means, but still, you didn't help him. You definitely put him in a bad situation in a lot of different ways. So I like that they've built this system to try to take advantage. He's great on those short throws. That's where his accuracy is just top notch in this, in this whole rookie class. And so far we've seen it 8 of 9 and should have had 2 touchdowns, 1 foot, just about 6 inches too far. If that heel is just a little bit back, we're talking 2 touchdowns. And so, like I said, it's just been great to hear, not only like Chase Daniels, you're hearing some of these other national media guys really start to talk this guy up. And it sounds like the Broncos are excited what they got. Talking about what we got excited about is Eric Flynn coming in saying, now that you've seen #Knicks for 6 in games, has your record prediction changed? So I know you were right in the, you counted 6?
I think I had 6.
So I think I was about 7. I would probably put them closer to 8 or 9 at this point. I think I've gone up maybe a game and a half.
Yeah. It's so hard to predict because like we see this Denver's Broncos offense is probably 1 injury away on the offensive line from, knock on wood, for like the entire offensive complexion changing. Because I really think that depth there looks pretty poor. I mean, when you have so few top 100 picks and like the dead cap hit, some areas are just going to be a little bit lacking, and lacking across the NFL is offensive line depth. But man, they looked really rough, in my opinion, against the Packers' 3rd and 4th stringers. So that doesn't make me very excited. But I think, anywhere from 6 to 9 wins. I'm not giving the Mike Kliss 11 to 6 wins. God bless. I love Mike, but really took a hard stance on that one. But I'd probably go 7 now. One more win. Honestly, it's not just Bo Nix, though. It's the defensive line depth stepping up as well. I think they don't have any superstars on the defensive line, but they seem to have pretty good role players. I don't know if I love the depth at defensive tackle as far as like difference makers, but I think they're 4 deep at edge. None of them, Von Miller, Bradley Chubb, DeMarcus Ware, maybe even Shaquille Barrett level. Maybe, but let's say you have like 2 Shaq Barrett, Shane Ray types, and then a little bit underneath that as well. That'd be pretty good for the depth of the team and how much they're going to rotate it. So I think 7 wins is where I'd have, and that's smashing the 5.5 still, 1.5 over. So we'll see. I'm curious to see if the Vegas line is going to change at all also as we ramp up to the regular season. But yeah, it's changed a bit. We'll have to go game by game at some point. Scott and I probably will, or maybe you and I next week, re-picking after the preseason's over. But thank you so much, Eric, for the support. 2 super chats here. Man, that's really, really helpful. Keeping us here on Tuesdays. Great to see you and hope you're doing well. I did want to say hello to Gary Palmer, of course, as well. $9.99. Thank you so much, Gary, keeping the lights on. It says, hey, Nick and Carl. I think a lot of people have underestimated the effect Sean has on Bo's progress. Go Broncos. I mean, I don't even know if you can call it progress right now, but it's like absolutely maximizing what Bo does best and also identifying via the quarterbacks available what skills and intangibles that he wants for his offense as well. I mean, this is the first time we've ever seen a massive draft investment in the quarterback with Sean Payton, because he joined the Saints and immediately brought in Drew Brees. And at that point, why are you drafting first round picks? And I guess unless you're the Packers with Rodgers taking Love, but I don't know. I wouldn't, maybe being a little pedantic here, progress, but maximizing what Bo does well and hopefully progressing as well. I mean, we saw progress, I think, from preseason week 1 to week 2. I think a better process in that second game from the footwork, staying in the pocket a little bit more, looked a little bit more calm. I still don't know if we have a single static under center drop back though, Carl. I mean, it's a lot of shotgun stuff, RPO or play action move designs with the quarterback. And at some point, I'm thinking they're probably going to have to win under center 3-step, 5-step drop back game just because that's how the NFL has been played for a long time. I can't think of a single one, Carl. I mean, I'm going to be honest. There's been under center stuff, but it's been much more play action design.
Was the Sutton play for the big catch down the field, not in the first game, second game, was that play action or was that true drop back?
I can't recall off the top of my head.
I'm trying to, that's
check.
the one where he hit that back foot, boom, balls out like that. I mean, it could have been play action.
Play. The dig, that was his best play of the, besides the non-touchdown, just for the fun of it. But that was probably his best play.
Yeah, no, it was perfect timing. Everything synced up, knew exactly where the ball should go, kept the safeties locked to the left with his eyes. Then boom, right at the last second, turned back. There's Cortland Sutton wide open. That's how you draw it up as a coach. And I'm sure that Sean Payton got a little smile on the sideline going, man, that's exactly what I was hoping for. That would maybe be the only play that I can think of. But yeah, part of it this year, it's going to be a little bit of smoke and mirrors. With any rookie quarterback, it's going to have to be that way. As they get more comfortable, then you can start adding in some of those things. He is great on third down. In college, that was one of his big things, that he was probably one of the top quarterbacks in all of college football this last year. And so he can handle it. In those obvious passing situations, he can still go out there and do something. But like I said, he's got to show he can do it on a consistent basis from the pocket. So often it is kind of him scrambling around a little bit and making something out of nothing, buying a little extra time, which, I mean, that's part of his game. That is going to be part of it, and that's great. But you can't depend on that to be consistently good as an offense. But talking about being consistently good, we got Phil coming back in saying, guys, reading an article by John Heath predicting the 53. He has 2 quarterbacks with Stidham out, 4 running backs with Pirine out, and surprise cut Mathis. Your thoughts?
I mean, I have not sat down and done the math myself on that, waiting for that third preseason game and just the time, honestly, to sit down and do the 53-man roster. But I mean, it sounds like they'd love to keep Stidham. It might come down to financials. I mean, I thought Zach Wilson looked pretty poor. As good as he looked in that Colts game, I thought he looked pretty poor. And the offensive line was bad. Like holding onto the ball too long, like get rid of it. Get rid of it. I can't tell you how many times I was watching the game saying, get rid of the bleeping ball. It's not there. You're not reading it. You just tick-tock. So I don't know. I mean, but then at the same time, you see Sean Payton, all these reports about, oh man, we've been really impressed with Wilson. So I really think they're going to find a way to keep all 3. As far as Pirine being out, I mean, it's possible. I think the only 2 who are safe there are McLaughlin and Javante. So we'll see about Pirine. I mean, I thought, well, I'll save it for the stock down, but both these guys, I mean, Mathis as well. I thought Mathis had a pretty good game in that second one. A lot of energy, a lot of tackling as well, coming downhill, physical. And that's something that in the combined practice, the coaches have been preaching it. I wish I could credit who it was on Twitter today, that teams have been really just emphasizing physicality, playing fast, tackling, and just bringing that demeanor. And I feel like this Denver's defense actually has a little bit of that demeanor, and Mathis displayed that pretty well in this Packers game, I thought. So we'll see. I mean, John, good work, but I haven't seen it, and I would need to sit down and actually go through the 53-man myself and have a discussion with him about how he got to that point.
Right. I'd be interested, what cornerbacks is he keeping to do that? Because, like I said, Mathis, when he's in a battle for a starting spot, to then go from competing for a starting spot to being cut, and he's on a rookie contract. Mm-hmm. Like, he might not be that great, but he's not that expensive. And he's got a little bit of starting experience. I know it's not great starting experience, but that's still valuable. And so I have a really hard time seeing him cut. Stidham, I have a lot more understanding. Just, you save a lot of money. You maybe take a chance on Zach Wilson being that great backup that could turn into something more. I know Sean Payton was talking about it. He said, hey, I told him, we're either here to make you a lot of money with us or with some other team. That's our job, is to help you get that. And I love that. Chase Daniels, I loved he was talking about. He was actually about to sign a contract with another team, and Sean Payton called him while he was in the office with the contract in front of him. And he goes, Sean Payton called and said, hey, get out of there, go get in an Uber, come to sign with us. He goes, I promise you're going to have a contract. We're going to put you on the practice squad for two games, and we're going to bring you up. So then you get your contract. And he said, that's exactly how it went. Then we won a Super Bowl. And he goes, I'm so glad I walked out of that room right in front of that contract. But He is a man of his word. And so I think if there is a quarterback that's going to be cut, I would actually bet more on Stidham than I would Zach Wilson right now.
We'll see. I think they're going to keep all three, but
I do too.
Who knows? The math will be tough for sure. Thank you for the support, Phil. We really do appreciate you. I did want to say hello to Daniel Berry Sports, Chase Wellner in the house, our guy Ernie Mays, of course, Greg Smith in here. Good to see you, Greg. Roy Osborne, of course. Corey's asking, you think the Bears will be okay this year? Maybe. NFC North is probably the best division in the NFC, but who knows? Adam Strange, what's up? Broncos Maniacs, great to see you. String Guy says preseason gives them hope. Yeah, absolutely. Allison in here, Denver Broncos, I believe in Bo Nix. I mean, we're all hoping, right? We got Doug in here, big Bo Nix fan, says there's no way this year's team is worse than last year's team. It's possible this year's team is better than last year's team, and they still have a worse record because last year's turnover run was improbable. I mean, that was since 1989, right? That was the most turnovers, and they were just falling on every single freaking fumble. So sometimes, good process leads to good results, but football is a chaos sport in the end, right? You have all those moving pieces. You try to coordinate as much as you can, but it is very possible that it's a better team with a worse record. Maybe who knows? Again, injuries could happen too, totally change things, but never say never. Learn that. Not to share Scott and I story, but we were like, when Russell Wilson comes in, like, okay, it can't be worse than it was last year. Boy, howdy. So one game at a time, not to be cliche, but that's just me guarding myself. God bless you if you want to be excited.
Right. And like you said, unfortunately, injuries are a part of the game, and there are a couple positions. If the Broncos suffer an injury, it gets bad real quick. Offensive line, I think, is one of those. Cornerback, Patrick Surtain goes down. Like, I'm knocking on every piece of wood around me that I possibly can, and you guys should be too, because I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah,
but you should have. That room gets, that room gets ugly real quick if that happens.
Javonte Williams. I mean, the other running backs look. I mean, I don't think McLaughlin can carry full load, and Ryan / Estimate not been super exciting. But it is exciting. Dennis Woods coming in. Have you heard if Zach Wilson or Jarrett Stidham will start and come first week? We're going to have a press conference tomorrow. I'm sure we're going to hear Bo Nix announced as a starter and what's going to happen with this third game. He said, I'd like to see Wilson play with the twos to see if he does better. It's possible. Tune in tomorrow night. I'm sure we'll have information there then with that. But thank you so much, Dennis. Go Hawkeyes. Hopefully it's a better offense for them as well this year. Michael's coming in and saying 11-6 with Bo Nix this year. I love it. Hopefully. We got David said Bo's father's a retired coach. He played quarterback at Auburn and was a coach as well. So a lot of different things. Josh says, hey, you guys, QB1, Bo Nix. Absolutely. I love this one from Jason. Let's just beat the damn Raiders. God, that would be good. 9 of the last 10 something the Raiders have taken us. Not good enough. Not good enough. And speaking of not good enough, stock down, stock up. For me, the biggest stock down, guys, Carl, and I'll just say the name. You can kind of talk about it too, because I'm sure we're both thinking this name. And also it's somebody that you liked a lot. And I'm still hopeful for, but you cannot watch or listen about training camp, watch preseason, not say stock down Marvin Mims. You traded up for him last year. Golden opportunity. I mean, I've said it so many times on these shows that, like, outside of Cortland Sutton, you don't know diddly about your pass catchers, which can be a negative, but also a positive. There's opportunity to step up. The ball's got to go somewhere. And why not Marvin Mims? You traded up for him. You hear Sean Payton talking about him. Still really young. A lot of good catches out there at Oklahoma, especially when he was paired with Caleb Williams. Well, been kind of a no-show so far on this Broncos offense. Heard reports of body language issues at camp as well. I mean, he's almost being relegated to that gadget role, which, again, still 3 years of contractual control. There's going to be opportunities for him to take himself out, especially with the special teams floor that he provides. But as a receiver, when there's so much opportunity, just has not taken it and run with it. So stock down Marvin Mims.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I mean, he has all the talent in the world, but talent without, and I hate saying effort, but like I said, when we've heard from camp that there's been some questions about whether he's grown as a route runner, that's what you kind of hope for from year 1 to year 2. Usually you're kind of looking more for, you're not looking for athletes, but I mean, you're hoping that athleticism can turn into a great football player. And we talked about it when Marvin Mims was drafted. Like, he's got all the tools to be a great wide receiver, but he's got a lot of little things that he's got to clean up in his game. And the thing that really separates the greats from the others is they work on those little things. Jerry Rice, he was the best wide receiver. I'd still say Moss was more talented, but Jerry Rice was one of the hardest workers that's ever played this game. He had talent, plus then he was just like, Tom Brady the same way. That's what took those guys over the top. And not saying Marvin Mims can get to that kind of level, but he could be a number 2 wide receiver if he actually worked at his game and improved, like I said, as a route runner, learned the offense. You've got to be trusted by the coaches to do what you're supposed to do. And right now it doesn't sound that way. It sounds more like, okay, we've got to design a play, tell you exactly what you're supposed to do. And then if you go do that, we can get the ball to you because you are uber talented and you can take a 5-yard pass or end around and turn it into a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we need more than that.
Yeah.
We can't just have you as a gadget player, because then every time you're on the field, teams are like, oh, ball's either going to Marvin Mims or he's being used as a smoke screen to get somebody else open. And it just limits what you can do as an offense when he's on the field.
Yeah, it just has not fully come together for him yet. Now he's still very young, and we haven't really seen the deep ball be deployed very often. Other than the deep pass interference in that Colts game, I don't think the ball's traveled more than 20 air yards from Bo Nix so far. But at least Bo Nix, I don't know, but Zach Wilson or Stidham, I can't remember that one off the top of my head. But yeah, he's definitely stocked down. And on that same front, I'm just going to go back to back here, Carl. I'm stealing him here. These are the easy two, but Tim Patrick has to be stock up. The way he's been utilized in the slot, the way his teammates celebrated him. He might end up being the number 1 the team leader in receptions this year. We know that the Bo Nix is going to try to work the quick game. Sean Payton's going to try to work the quick game. Michael Thomas, slant boy, right? That kind of thing there, a tough receiver. I do worry about the hits over the middle of the field. They're going to have to work on some of the ball placement time to time just to protect them. But with Marvin Mims stock down, Tim Patrick just as much stock up, if not more so, because of how low he's been, missing with 2 season-ending injuries in a row and taking the totally tiny contract to stay in Denver.
I love hearing afterwards the celebration in the locker room for him.
Yeah.
It shows these players love that guy. They know how hard he works to be great at the game. Again, this is one of those guys that, because he works so hard, it takes his talent to a different level. And I hope that kind of example can rub off on a guy like Marvin Mims. Because again, you can be the most talented player. We've seen some great athletic freaks come through Denver. I can think of Paxton Lynch was actually a pretty good athlete, but he never had the mind or the work ethic to really go out there. Drew Lock had a great arm, but he never quite had the mind or the technique, or he never really worked on his game to the little details to get better. And so again, that's where I'm hoping that kind of player can rub off on him. I'll go my first stock down, Frank Crum. How can you not have him on this list? Here's a guy that a lot of people were very excited about as an undrafted free agent. Broncos could be looking at replacing both their tackles in the next couple years. So you hope maybe this could be one of your developmental pieces. He was bad, like bad. I'm trying to maybe like Michael Schofield, that one game, I think it was against the Raiders, where he gave up like 4 or 5 sacks. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was
Khalil
so
Mack.
bad. Khalil Mack. He made his career. Like, it seems like a fourth of Khalil Mack's sacks came against Schofield, or at least the Denver Broncos. And that's how bad he was. He's 6'8", and he stands up like he's 6'8" when he's supposed to be, getting into position. His punch is bad because he has no leverage. His feet are slow. Guys are beating him with, spin moves to the inside because he'd give up that inside leverage. It just, everything that could go wrong went wrong for him in that game. And I have a hard time even seeing him make the practice squad at this point. There's a couple other tackles that aren't going to make the roster that I would have above him right now that I probably would take. I would keep them at this point.
If it was the old school where there wasn't just one big cut, you had the waves he'd be gone. Yep, you got to go meet Sean Payton, bring your playbook. It was rough to watch. And I mean, we can just might as well dump on the backup offensive line as well here while we're at it. I thought Forsythe didn't have the best game, but not like absolutely horrific. Palshetsky, I know a lot of people love the undrafted free agent from Illinois, but multiple penalties back-to-back weeks now. He was getting beat. Sherman, it was a twist stunt kind of thing going on, but he, I think, mostly responsible for that sack. Now, Zach Wilson also needs to know where you're at and get rid of the ball, which is a theme. But he was not very good. I wasn't super impressed with Mustapher out there as well. Yeah, just not a great showing from the backup offensive line. But Crum takes the cake. That was really bad. So I mean, right, that's preseason football. You're talking about the third string offensive tackle. It's one reason that tackles, like, people like, really get upset about Garrett Bowles, but like there's such a scarcity of guys who are big enough, strong enough, fast enough to play offensive tackle that once you go from that first line to the second line, or if you have injuries happen in the offensive line, good freaking luck. It gets ugly. It can get ugly quick.
It's why you see so many of the great ones are first round picks, because there is a limited, even competent. I mean, there's such a limited scope of, hey, these are the type of guys that work for the NFL. Like you can actually look at their athletic profile and usually pick out the guys that are going to be pretty darn good, or at least stand a chance to be good. If they don't have that, it's hard to become a great tackle. They have to make up for it with incredible technique and just, an intelligent mind that, goes beyond the athleticism. So I agree. I think the Broncos are going to have to just make that commitment. Hey, we're going to have to use a first round pick to find our guy, second round pick, something like that. I mean, you can't get much further than that and really find your guy. And Sean Payton's that. He knows that. Like he's one of those guys. He has that mind, that old school mindset of really build from the lines out. Obviously you need the quarterback. If you can get the quarterback, get the quarterback. But otherwise, build that offensive line, build that defensive line, and usually you can do a lot of good things in the NFL. But one of my stock ups, I got to go with Nick Bonito.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Ellis both. It was kind of a who's going to meet at the quarterback first. It was good to see, and again, it was second and third string, fourth string offensive lines, so they should be dominating. But I think the part that I really liked about his game is they tried to run at him, because Nick Bonito has not been good against the run, but he actually kind of held up his spot. He had two big stops in the run game. Like I said, had a couple times where they were really trying to double team, push him out of the pocket, and he kind of at least caused a big pile up where other guys could go in and make the play. And that's what you got to do every once in a while. You got to do some of the dirty work. You can't just be the guy bending around the edge, making the cool sack, getting the forced fumble, those kind of things. That's part of your game, which is great, but you got to prove you can do the other parts if you're going to get on the field more. And so I thought he did a great job in this one. Had two pressures, one of them being a sack. And like I said earlier, the Broncos have 4 competent edge players. Not many teams can say that they have 4 guys that you can actually trust to be on the field for most plays.
Yeah.
They might have a more elite number 1, but you start getting some of those backups in, and then teams are going, oh yeah, this is where we go. This is where we attack. Now for the Broncos, it's kind of, okay, which one do you want to double team? Because each of these guys can actually win a one-on-one battle. Not, like I said, not to the ability of, Von Miller or DeMarcus Ware, but to a competent level.
Yeah. Yeah, without a doubt. I see Kenneth in here says, who's the last great left tackle that was drafted in the 4th or later? Jordan Mailata was a 7th round pick, and he gets paid like he's elite. He plays pretty darn good for the Eagles. So granted, circumstances weird for him, right? Coming from New South Wales, which Australia, I guess. Yeah, Australia. So that's one who stands out to me, but it's a rare path, right? That's a rare one. Keeping it here, we got Phil says, since Stidham is a 5th-year player, he won't hit the waiver wire, so it's possible to re-sign him to the practice squad. That is possible. I feel like he's looked competent enough, and there's enough quarterback questions out there that like a team like the Raiders would probably, scoop him up just to have the insight and everything of Broncos going on there. I mean, O'Connell's not been super exciting. It sounded like it was, Minshew also. So I think somebody probably would pick him up. You could risk it. Is having Stidham or not on this roster going to make or break, Denver's Super Bowl chances or something? Probably not. Probably not. I mean, could make or break the playoffs, right? Let's say Knicks goes down for 3 games. I trust Stidham to keep the ship right for those 3 games than I do Wilson and run the system and protect the football. But I don't know. We'll see what happens with Stidham. And thank you, Phil, for the start.
What do you think happens? Because when Stidham's in there, not everything is his fault of why the offense stalls out, but it just seems like bad things happen when he's in.
Sample size. It's just sample size. It's a chaos sport, and with your large enough sample size, things will regulate themselves. But how many drives have we seen of Stidham? 5, 6? I mean, that's minuscule. It's tiny. It's hard to take any grand sweeping judgments from that. Now, if it was happening constantly in like practice and stuff too, maybe there's something there. But I don't think that's the case. More stock up for me. I did want to give, since we're going to wrap it on up here soon, because I got to get on baby duty and my throat's a little sore. I wanted to give out 2 shout outs on the defensive side of the ball. I thought Justin Strnad had a heck of a game. Backup, but we're looking for help at linebacker. It seems like it's a battle between Barton's probably going to win with Griffith, but Strnad's special team ace, and I think looked pretty good in coverage in this game too. So shout out to him. Sounds like a nice, educated guy as well from everything I've heard about him. So pulling for him, and I thought he had a good game. And real shout out here, Zach Allen was a menace in this game. Now again, backup Packers offensive line, but I know people talk about the value of the Broncos defensive players, and Patrick Surtain's far and away number 1. But if there was a redraft of the team right now, for this season, for the defensive players, I'm probably taking Zach Allen next. He's probably the next guy off the board for me for Denver in terms of value. And he played really good in this game. I don't think he's going to be an all-pro player. Still really young, learn a new position. I don't think Pro Bowl is out of the question.
Yeah, he's definitely, if I was a betting man beyond Surtain for a defensive player to make the Pro Bowl, like you said, I think Zach Allen would be that guy. He's got at least a little bit of history where teams are going, hey, he's pretty good. So it's not like all of a sudden, a lot of times they say Pro Bowl is you have a great year and then the next year you get in. So I think he's had at least enough good in the past where teams trust him. Like, hey, this isn't coming out of nowhere. It's not just a freak year to get him here. And there's a lack of great defensive linemen that can get after the quarterback in the NFL. And with having the kind of pressure packages that they're going to bring, because Vance Joseph actually likes to bring pressure, having competent guys next to him, now having John Franklin Myers, who might be getting a lot more attention to help him out, get him some one-on-one opportunities, do some stunts on the inside to get him, again, just more times of hitting the quarterback. Yeah, I think he could be close to that double-digit sack kind of guy, even on the interior. And so, yeah, he'd definitely be one. He was on my list. Justin Strnad was on my list. So you're taking my guys. But I got plenty of others, thankfully. I'll stick with defense. Keydron Smith, 2 games, 2 interceptions. Seems to find himself in the right spot. I don't know if they'll keep 5 safeties, but he's probably that number 5 safety, and he's making a case for himself. The Broncos, I think they're really going to depend on turnovers again this year. And unfortunately, some of these other guys have dropped interceptions. He's made the catch, and that makes a big difference. So I think he's a possibility to make the roster. I think he's going to be like that number 52 or number 53 kind of guy to make it. And then I'll go Greg Dulcich. We finally get to see a little bit of what he can bring to the table. I know everybody's worried about the injuries, same with Tim Patrick. If both of those guys can stay healthy, you could have a pretty decent offense. You don't have like a true great number 1 wide receiver. Courtland Sutton's good. I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but across the board, you could have 3, 4, 5 guys that you feel comfortable with being on the field and being able to make a play for you. And his ability, I think it was the 3rd down play where he caught it short, made that one guy miss, and went and got the big first down. That's what you need. In this kind of offense that you're going to run, you're going to get those opportunities. If you can make one guy miss, it can turn from a 5-yard play into a 20-yard play. And if this offense is going to be explosive, that's how it's going to have to be. It's not going to be the 40-yard bomb down the field.
Yeah.
That's just not how Bo Nix plays the game. Sean Payton likes a little bit of the short passing game. I mean, he wants to take chances. He does like to go deep. I'm not trying to take that away from him. And I know I listened to him talk in an interview the other day, and he said, I've gotten after the coaches. I've told them, hey, call some more deeper plays. Just because they've kind of kept it. Hey, these are what our quarterbacks are good at. Let's keep calling these kind of plays. And he's like, no, we need to get better at going over the top. And I love, Green Bay this year. I know some people say, hey, Broncos dominated that practice, but they've been doing things a little bit differently. They know they're a good team. And so they know to get themselves over the top, what they need to do is work on the things they're not good at. So last year they were not good at the deep ball. And I know that's been a huge emphasis in their training camp is, hey, we're trying to hit those deep passes on a more regular basis. Go from hitting them on 35%, get it up to 50%. And they think, hey, that one big play could be the difference of beating the 49ers or losing and being out of the playoffs. So, that's the place you want to get for the Broncos, where we know we're good. We know we're going to the playoffs. Now let's work on the little things that can get us over the top to the Super Bowl.
I did have a few more stock ups. Just wanted to toss out Greg Dulcich out there making plays, being feisty. He's a useful piece when he's healthy. Can you count on him? I'll believe it when I see it, but I stock up, getting out there, taking some hits, making some plays. Also, I think we can both all say stock up Bo Nix again. Just maybe there's some deep shots here or there, some like ball placement or blah blah blah. He's executing, he's making quick reads, the ball's coming out. Doesn't feel like it's in harm's way very often. He improved the footwork and the mechanics underneath from the first game to the second game. I mean, it's hard not to say Bo Nix, the ultimate stock up player. Did want to go quick stock down Audric Estime. He had a really good block in this game, which I'm sure the tape, that's one of the Samaje Perine's calling cards. Maybe Denver make a call there. But he just looks very much like a plotter. To me, I liked him a lot at Notre Dame. Now, granted, Notre Dame's offensive line had a lot of displacement. The probably best offensive line 1 through 5 last season in college football, if not darn close. And Estime had a lot of runways. And I just think he looks slow. I know he's a power back, but you still need to have some level of burst to him. And it's too slow right now. Look, his feet caught in the mud too often. So Estime stock down for me. We'll see. I'm hoping, can turn around. I know he ran that 4.71 at the combine. That dropped him a bit, but slight stock down for me for Estime.
Yeah, and I guess I'll go the other side of that. Javonte Williams, he looks back.
Stock up.
Like he was making I think the big thing for me that I loved in this one especially, he was hitting the right hole almost every single time. I think there's one play that I was like, maybe should have cut that back inside instead of trying to drop it outside. But otherwise, he was making smart decisions. He was making quick cuts, getting downhill. I think he averaged like 5 yards a carry in this one. And that's what's going to take this Broncos offense to actually being good, is having a very strong run game. You've got the big boys up front with Quinn Miners, McGlinchey, Garrett Bowles loves to get in there and push guys around. Ben Powers can get in there. I mean, he was part of that Ravens offense that could just run over everybody. So if that's what they can be, this offense could actually be a very competent top 15 offense in football this year. And so I loved his game. Stock down DJ Jones, second game in a row where I've just been like, man, you've made almost no impact. I know he didn't get many snaps, but it seems like a lot of people have him on the roster. I'm not sure that's 100% guaranteed right now. He's got pretty big cap hit for the kind of impact that he's making.
Yeah,
I think he probably still makes the roster, but I don't think it's as clear cut right now as the last couple of years.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Roach is a very similar player, and this regime brought in Roach, so who knows? There always are a few surprises every week, and no surprise here. We got to wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for joining us today on Tuesday evening for Building the Broncos. Make sure you're following Carl and I on Twitter. Carl's at Carl Dumler, MHH. I'm at Kendell, MHH. Also follow us at Mile High Huddle if you haven't done so already over on Twitter, X, whatever the heck you want to call it. If you haven't done so yet, join us at Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. And as this ticker says there underneath on the screen, please subscribe to our show over on YouTube. Like, Building the Broncos on all our shows when they come up, and share them on your social media platforms. Let us know who your stock up, stock down guys. If you disagree with anything, if we're missing anybody, Todd says stock up Broncos offense. Absolutely. Definitely feel stock up Broncos country, baby. Thank you so much to David McElrath, Michael Ronquillo, Eric Flynn, Phil McLaughlin, Gary Palmer, Dennis Woods with the support today. We really do appreciate you guys. And any final thoughts, Carl? We got to wrap it up.
No, like I said, the offense 2 weeks in a row scoring big points. That's huge. When most of these preseason games are like 13-10 kind of scores, and the Broncos have put up 34 and now 27, that's great to see. It shows that they're buying into the Sean Payton system. And I know, again, defenses are playing vanilla systems, but every team gets that, and they're not putting up points. So I think it does show that there's a better chance of this offense being consistent. At least, like I said, putting up some points, not having, unfortunately, like last year where we'd have like 6 points going into the fourth quarter, and then maybe Russell Wilson makes a little bit of magic and we get a little bit back into the game. I think the Broncos are actually going to be a top 15 offense this year.
Yeah. That'd be great. That'd be a lot of fun. I trust Sean Payton. That's for sure. It's pretty crazy having that competent of an offensive play caller and designer. So a lot of fun. It's going to be a fun time. We appreciate you guys. Make sure you're following us. Continue to choose kindness and compassion. We'll see you next week. Go Broncos.